So today I'm joined by January 6th defendant Christopher Rockey, and this is not the norm for the interviews I usually do. I typically, in the past, have interviewed other defendants who I knew beforehand, people that I had actually served time with, but there are over 1,000 other J6 defendants that I never had the pleasure of meeting, and I never had the honor of serving time with in jail or prison. Um, Rocky is, in many respects, like a lot of other January 6 defendants, and in many other ways, of course, he has his own personal stories and really hardships that he had to endure. Everybody has their own story, and I'm happy to have come into contact with Rocky here so he can give his story. And hopefully in the future, this will encourage even more people to come forward, because every January 6th experience, I think, is a valuable one to hear and to learn about. And so with that, Rocky, thank you for joining me. It's an honor to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. So as far as my story goes, I think I should give a little bit of a background.
100%.
As to where I came from and how I became who I am.
Please.
So I was raised in Marilla, New York, a little farming community there, dairy farms. And we lived right next door to a farm, the Gerhardts. They were a great family. And I grew up helping them on their farm and just learning all kinds of stuff from an age of about 8, I would say. Helping birth calves and just stuff you never would experience. And as I got older, I started working for the farm down the road. That was the Janigas, another great family, a real big farming family, Marilla. And I went on from there to work in construction, and then I got into commercial construction. But this whole time, we adopted a young boy, and his name was John, when he was 2 years old. And he had muscular dystrophy. And, when we got him, I don't think my parents knew what they were in for. But from a young age, he had problems walking. He had problems caring for himself. It was just the muscles deteriorating. They didn't expect him to live much past 15 or 16. And, my job, I was the oldest in the family. I was the strongest in the family, because working on the farm, I was just pretty damn strong for a kid. And, it was my job to take care of him. And I would have to lift him in and out of the bathtub. I would have to lift him on and off the toilet into his wheelchair. And, anywhere we went, I'd have to load him in the truck. I was the only one. I cared for him all the time. And when I wasn't home, I had 2 stepbrothers that had to, team up and take care of that job. But, and I had a bunch of younger sisters that I was always protecting, and I was just the protector of the family growing up. So from there, I went in the Marine Corps, and my brother died shortly after I went in there, and I always felt terrible about that. He just, it was just, I wish I would have been there for him. But, after our entire lives together up to that point. But, that broke my heart. But, I went on to Fort Sill. I was in artillery. From there, I went to Okinawa for 2 years, and from there, I went to Camp Lejeune. And I was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. When I came back from there, I thought I was fine. I had, and the only reason I can talk about this right now, period, is because I just finished up, just before I was going to prison, I finished up a thing called poet therapy, which is prolonged exposure therapy. and they make you talk about your worst experience in combat, and they just make you repeat it over and over, and it sucks. But you know, they teach you how to deal with it. They teach you not to avoid it, and now I can talk about it. So, you know, what created my turns out to be PTSD was we came up on this enemy position, and we found we were told to go up and clear these trenches that the infantry had bypassed. So we come up on these trenches, and we're clearing the trenches, and then we see an enemy vehicle that's nose down into a trench. And I was told with a couple of my other Marines to go clear that vehicle, and I hopped down on of it. And when the driver's head was elevated, when he was driving, and when he hit that trench, he came forward, and his brains just went all over the front of the thing. And when I hopped down, I tripped over something, and I went, both hands slid right through it. And that fucked me up for a long time. I can't handle raw meat, like roadkill, you know, strewn out on the road. I just, for the longest time, it really bothered me. It still does, but I can deal with it. So that's where the PTSD comes from. So I dealt with it for many, many years without even being diagnosed or going for help. And I got out of the Marine Corps. I started working for a country land surveyor named Gary Krull, and he taught me everything that I know about land surveying. So eventually I moved on to heavy highway construction and doing bridges and stuff like that. And I had to move on because of the money. And worked for a couple different companies throughout my career, and eventually got to be the lead surveyor, the survey chief. And, you know, I had a great career going, and, my daughter had a baby back in 2013, and she's my stepdaughter, from a previous marriage. And, I just always called, she was always my daughter. I gave her away at a wedding. She lived with me after she moved out of her mom's house, and she's just been always my girl. And she had a baby, and I remember going in there to see the baby, and all I could think about at that time, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, was in combat, going through this enemy, this dead enemy soldier, going through his pocket. I found a picture of him and his wife and what I assume was his daughter. And, I just was like taken, because that guy never could experience what I was experiencing. I mean, everything come down on me when it was supposed to be a good experience. Really, messed me up.
Yeah.
But then we moved down to Charleston, my wife at the time, and, didn't know anybody there, at all. We just moved. We sold her business. She was a esthetician and did all that beauty stuff, eyelashes and stuff. But we get down to Charleston, and she starts her own business again. And I'm kind of, we went down there because I was having issues, and I just couldn't concentrate on my job anymore. You know, as a surveyor, you're doing a lot of numbers, and you got to be very accurate.
Yeah.
And I just felt that I needed to do something else. So the VA has what they call the vocational rehab program, and they sponsored me and paid my way to go to Charleston Woodworking School. And super great guy. We were the first graduating class, and the guy that owns the school is named Sam Sprouse, and just a great guy. And we just had our 10th reunion, so we all went to that. But the VA, that was a great thing, and I got into woodworking when I graduated that school, and I was doing pretty well for myself. I was getting treated at the VA down here. The Dr. Hamner's great doctor, and he was awesome. But, you know, then the Black Lives Matter riots were starting, and Trump got into office, and all this stuff is happening in Charleston, and the riots downtown, and people getting cornered in the back room of bars, and you know, while they're trashing the bar and trying to break the door down to get to them. It was a very dividing time. The city of Charleston was very divided at the time, and I had people screaming at me, this and that, and I just felt that I needed to somehow, you know, I didn't have a circle anymore. So I heard about this group called the 3 Percenters. And I reached out to them, and I asked a bunch of questions, and, you know, they were like, they were like, no, we're not a militia. We just like to be prepared and support each other and this and that. So I went to a few meetings, and it didn't last long, because right around when Trump was elected, I don't know what happened with the leadership of that group, but there was a big divide, and the guys in our group, our chapter, decided to just walk away. They said, if you guys want to stay, you can stay, but we're walking away. And I walked away. I was like, all right, but I just felt I needed some sort of a community or protected family to, you know, at the time. So anyway, I walked away from that, and shortly after that was January 6th. So, you know, we're hearing a lot of stuff on all the podcasts. I'm watching this stuff, and you know, they were saying that Antifa was going to be there, and I was doing a little research, and I saw that there was a Trump rally back in August of 2020 where Antifa was there, and they were fighting against the Proud Boys, and there were a bunch of stragglers, families leaving the event or whatever, and 4 people got stabbed by Antifa. And I think that same day, somebody else got shot over on the West Coast, right in the head, you know, because he was a Trump supporter. And so they say they're going to be there. And I say, well, I'm going to go protect my people. I'm not going to sit idly by. You know, I just felt like it was a very important thing for me. I've been a protector my whole life. I've always stood up to the bullies, protecting, you know, the kids that got picked on. I was ready to roll. So I didn't want to go by myself. So I asked my buddy Eddie if he would go with me. I said, I need a battle buddy or something, right? So he said, hell yeah, I'll go. So I don't know. We were just, I really wanted to hear Trump because I didn't think I'd ever hear him speak, and it was a great opportunity. But
sure.
So we get there on January 5th to our hotel in Bethesda and settle in, and then we took the train downtown just to see where we were going the next day and what it looked like, and see if there was anything going on down there. And there seemed to be a little bit of people just, begging for a platform, speaking it here and there, but not a whole lot was going on. So we went back to the room and got up early the next day and took the train down. And, everybody on the train was like joyous and chanting and singing and laughing. And I saw this one kid I'm sitting on the end of my bench, and there's a door, and then he's on the other end. And, he didn't look happy at all.
I wouldn't be happy too if I was wearing skinny jeans, but that's okay.
Yeah, right. No, but he had a backpack. He was sketchy, and he was all scarred up. He was a fighter. This dude just didn't look right. Everybody else was happy, and his girlfriend sitting next to him, like, I don't know, they didn't fit in. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to be on the lookout. That's all I said. I never saw him again. But so we get off the train and we don't even know where we're going. Because we didn't walk down that far. We didn't know what was it called? Where he had the speech?
The Ellipse.
The Ellipse. That's right. So, yeah, we're just following the crowd. And I don't know, as we're walking down there, I start seeing these kids all over the place. On the corners. They all got phones. They're all texting. They're not walking with the crowd. Other kids on bicycles riding around. Who the hell has a bicycle? Everybody that was there flew in or drove in. Who brought their bikes, right?
Right.
I saw all these kids driving all over on bikes and shit, and I'm like, well, they don't live in D.C. if they're not a Trump person, if they're in D.C. So I don't know. I was watching all this happen, and like the whole crowd would be going towards the Ellipse, and you'd see some of these kids running away from it or riding their bikes away from it. It's like, it just wasn't right. So, but they're all dressed like, most of them were anyway. I saw some guys in just pure black, but most everybody was dressed patriotically. So anyhow, we were waiting forever for the president to start speaking, so we walked down to the Lincoln Memorial, and we just were checking that out, and nothing was open. They locked up everything, all the public bathrooms. You know that. It was like no restaurant, nothing. The place was like, I don't know. It sucked, really. No bathrooms anywhere. So, while we're down there, some 3 kids come up to us on these bicycles, and they're asking us all kinds of questions. Are you ready to die for your country? All this stuff.
What?
Yeah, just off the wall stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, why are you here? And they were just real sketchy. They wouldn't give you any answers. We didn't give too many answers to them either, but anyway, so off they went, and, we walked back up. We could hear the crowd getting loud. So, we walked back up there, listened to the speech. I saw a whole bunch of Oath Keepers standing around under a tree, and I wandered over there. I was like, "What's up?" And nobody wanted to talk to me. I probably, everybody thinks everybody's a Fed, so don't know. They didn't want to say a whole lot, but I was like, all right, whatever. I'll see you guys later.
If it was the Oath Keepers that I was locked up with, I know that the Oath Keepers were in D.C. to do security. They were doing a job for Roger Stone, I believe, and a couple other groups. So they was like a big thing. They had to go through Secret Service. They had to, so I wouldn't take that too personally.
No, I didn't. I don't take that personal at all. I figured they were, and didn't they help some police officers or something get out or something?
Yeah. They were accused of trying to overthrow the government as they helped stop vandalism. That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was just saying, I was just trying to wander around, get the feel of what was going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. We stayed right to the end of that speech, and then we started walking with the crowd up, I don't know, is it Independence Avenue or whatever? And the crowd was pretty happy, singing and chanting, and there was people that had boom boxes on wheels and "We Will Rock You," with, Queen, and it was pretty cool. But I mean, when we were about 3/4 of the way there, all of a sudden you see people with these bullhorns start saying, "Mike Pence is a traitor. Hang Mike Pence," and all this stuff. And very shortly after that, I heard an explosion up ahead. And I was like, "Oh, that's not good." So
that's not fun.
Yeah. So the pace of the crowd quickened, and some of the happy people started becoming not so happy, and you could see a lot of these kids from earlier in the day were not moving with the crowd. They were just on the bullhorns, or they were on their phones. They were just stationed. Every freaking corner, there was somebody. And it's just very odd. But as we came up onto the lawn, we went to as you're approaching from there, we were on the left side. And I don't know what that is, but that's where the scaffold was. And you could see all kinds of people just starting to crowd in under the scaffold.
Yeah.
But you couldn't see what was going on up inside, up underneath. And there was these guys up on top of the scaffold with the bullhorn screaming, "Patriots, we need your help. We need your help. Get up here. We need help," And so I was like, let's go. Let's go. I don't know what's going on, but let's go. So we get up there. Once you got into that crush of people going up the stairs, you had to climb over a couple cross braces on the scaffold. But once you got on the stairs, it was pretty just like going up the stairs. And it was very orderly. Everybody was just not pushing or anything. But it was, moving ahead. Up the stairs, always. You're always getting, you couldn't go backwards. I couldn't turn around and leave. Nobody could.
No.
It was just, because the people were packing in from behind more than they were up on top. Whatever was going on up there, because I didn't know yet. So I get to the top, and there's these open doors. Well, big open doors. And there's this guy, this kid, inside the door to my right as I'm going in. And he's going, "Come on, keep moving, everybody. Keep moving. Let's go." And it was very dark inside that hallway. So I'm like, "What?" And then I tripped over a little ledge. And this dude that was helping us through, or moving us through, keep going. He caught me from falling and stood me up. And then I stood up in the hallway, and it was, a real quick change of light. My eyes hadn't adjusted. And all of a sudden I see police officers on both sides of the hallway. And I stepped back. I was like, "Hey," I said, "is it okay for us to come in here?" And they were like, yeah, keep moving, come on. And I fist bumped the one dude, and I was like, hey, man, we love you guys. Because up to that point, I hadn't seen, we were telling the cops all the way down the street that we loved them, you know, telling them all good compliments, you know. So I didn't see anything happen between the police and the crowd before I went in there.
Right.
So now I'm inside, and we're just kind of wandering around. There's a crowd of people that are filing in, and I went up a staircase to see this one painting, but only to the landing, not to the next level. You know, I didn't want to get too far away. Just stay with the crowd, and I thought we'd be fine. You know, I'm not going to go in anywhere that I'm not supposed to be. I was told it's okay to come in. So I felt at that point, I mean, looking back, you know, when we came up on the lawn, there was no caution tape. There was no sign saying do not enter. There was no bicycle barricades or whatever. There was nothing. There was people on the front lawn spread blankets like they were out for a family picnic. You know, there was nothing saying we couldn't be there. You get caught up in it, you know, and I don't know. I would have never went in the building had I not been told it was okay. So, you know, back to we're just walking through this building, and we all of a sudden Eddie's. I told him, always stay behind me, just watch my back. Eddie comes up to me, goes, hey, there's Nancy Pelosi's office. And I could see people going, and I walked back, you know, I said, oh, wow. I could see people going in and out of there. And the sign was still over her door at that point. I said, well, we're not going in there. I said, that's nothing but trouble. You know, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't want to venture off the beaten path too much. That's crazy to me. I just was asking for trouble, going to somebody's office.
Well, you turned out to be right.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I get it. I mean, people were caught up in it. I'm not saying that they were bad people. I'm just saying that was my personal choice. So following the crowd, we end up in the rotunda or statuary hall. Is that what it is?
Yeah, right on the second floor up there, that connector.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, there wasn't a whole lot, maybe a couple hundred people in there when we got there, maybe less, but, people were trying basically at that point to stay between the stanchions, and, one of them got knocked over, and Eddie stood it up, and, you know, we weren't there doing any damage, or we didn't want any trouble. But there was chants, you know, whose house, our house. And it was something to experience. I will say that. But at the exit to, Statuary Hall was a hallway. Well, there was a hallway leading to another hallway going left and right as we're facing it. That short hallway leading to a larger hallway ahead of us there was about 3 or 4 cops at the time standing there saying, you can't go through here. So we were allowed to go up to Statuary Hall. Then we were stopped. And everybody coming in that door that I came in, that's where everybody was headed, Statuary Hall. It can't hold that many people. Like, they were filling up a balloon. There was one way in those doors, and there was one way out, which was through those police officers. And it was just filling up like a balloon in there, and eventually it was going to burst. And you got more rowdy people in there, and people, you know, I don't know. I always kind of stood up while we were in there, I was standing up by the police officers, and I wasn't threatening them. I just was standing there watching, and this one police officer, tall, lanky guy, probably late 20s, early 30s, his name was Epps, just like the name Ray Epps. But he was a police officer, and I didn't know that until I was looking at my Discovery, and then I was like, wow, look at that. So, you know, he's telling us we're all going to get arrested and this and that. And everybody was like, no, we were let in. Why are we going to get arrested? The cop said we could come in. And he's like, no, you're all getting arrested. I don't know what to tell you. And there was some politicians, I don't know politicians, but people in suits. It could have been Secret Service. It could have been anybody. I don't know. But they're still able to run through Statuary Hall, and they're panicking. And then once it got full, there was these two guys next to me to my left. They were two bigger guys, probably in their 50s at the time. They had these scrolls. I don't know what was the scrolls said,
like
but they were
like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, like if you could unroll them, yeah, like that. They were rolled up in a map case.
Huh.
And they were like, it would be such a historic moment if you would let us through and we could read these scrolls in the Senate chamber, wherever they were, you know. I don't know what that was all about. I just remember them, the two guys, and I don't know if they ever did that or whatever. I never saw them again. But all of a sudden, behind this line of police officers comes this guy, just skipping down the hallway, like he's high on something, and he's hooting and hollering and everything. And he's wearing this hat with floppy ears, like I don't know what kind of those winter hats, the furry ears with
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, South Park hat.
right. So he comes up behind the cops, and the cops are like, "Hey, how did you get back here? What are you doing back here?" And he's just like, "Woo!" And they grab him and they throw him into our crowd. And
it sounds suspiciously like Zach Alam, the Antifa guy, who was going, "Hey!"
Yeah, exactly. Well, I found out afterwards that's who that was. I asked for the longest time, who is this guy? For the longest time, I thought he was a plant, an undercover, something, because how did he get behind the cops? And I just had so many questions. So anyway, he starts making trouble where there was no trouble to start with before he got there. He started hooting and hollering and making a ruckus and pushing into the cops and everything. So I grabbed hold of him in a bear hug and I threw him at the cops, pushed him towards the cops and said, "Get rid of this guy. He's nothing but trouble." Because before I did that, there was a guy behind us in the crowd that said, "Hey, I've seen that guy before and he's nothing but trouble." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, he was in this town or wherever. I don't know if it was Charlottesville or wherever, but so we tried to get rid of him, and the cops just pushed him back into us. And I don't know. Well, he went on to break that window that Ashley Babbitt went through with the helmet, right? So,
helmet boy.
Yes. So I don't know where he didn't have the helmet when I had my hands on him. I don't know where that came from. But so eventually, like I say, Statuary Hall is filling up like a balloon. And a balloon's going to burst eventually, and it did. And I could feel the crowd behind me just pushing, like heaving. And there was nowhere to go but forward. Like it just was a blast of people. And the cops fell back. And I don't know. when we went down the hallway, it was only 20, 30 foot. And like I said, it went right and it went left. And I went right. I didn't know where the hell I was going, but I wanted to get out of there. And I was closest to the right-hand side, so that's the way I went. And that Zach Elam, they ended up going left. If I had gone left, I'd ended up in that mess. But luckily, as I was going, after I turned right, we came up on the doors of a chamber. I don't know if that's where they were holding their session or not, but I don't know where I just don't know the layout of that building. So all of a sudden I see these two kids, these two guys. They were younger guys. They had their back to the door, and they were like donkey kicking the bottom of the door, you know? And these were tall doors, 10 foot high or more. And they were flexing so much when they were kicking them that I could see feet and legs of people inside, just on the other side. And I was like, we need to get out of here, man. So we got away from whatever was going to happen there. And luckily, right at the end of that hallway to our left, there was an exit. And it was out the other side of the building from where we came in. But it was on the other end of the building from where we came in. So, that's the first time I witnessed any damage when I went out those doors. There was, the alarms were going off. There was broken windows in those doors. And cameras were ripped off the corners and shit like that. So, but, just as we're going outside, there was another guy that I had seen inside. He was a pretty big dude. And, all of a sudden he started screaming at this guy. He was a real tall, lanky guy, dressed all in red, white, and blue, like really like over the top. And I mean, he said, "You've been trying to get me to do shit all day long. You're trying to get me in trouble." And he grabbed the guy and just slammed to the ground, and, everybody's screaming at him, "Are you Antifa? Are you fucking Antifa, motherfucker?" Like this dude was getting lumped up. But, I don't know, it got broke up, and, so I was with two other guys. I didn't even mention that we had picked up along the way. One of them was a buddy of mine from the Marine Corps. He flew in and I just picked him up. And that was a last minute thing. And then another, a friend of a friend needed a ride. His whole group fell through. So there was four of us, and we just said, it's going to be tough to stay together, four people. Let's pair up and just don't lose your battle buddy, right? Mm. So we ended up on that other side of the building, up on the balcony, and we're just overlooking those big steps in the middle.
Yeah.
We were up on that balcony, and we had a South Carolina flag and a Marine Corps flag, and a lot of people from South Carolina were coming over. "Where are you from?" And it was just a peaceful, great day. Other than what I had seen inside.
Seems like the most festive insurrection I've ever heard of.
Yeah,
are you sure?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was very festive. And, I don't know. So, and all day long, we were standing out there. All day, a couple hours. So we're standing out there, and police officers are coming in. They're just walking through the crowd where we are. They're just walking through. They're not afraid for their lives. Women police officers walking through the crowd. Like nobody was a threat over there, and they weren't afraid. And we were still as they were walking in the building, we didn't see anything. We were like, we love you guys. Hey, we couldn't hear what was going on over on the other side of the building. I never really heard that. I heard some just before I went through the door. It started to ratchet up a little bit, but then I was gone. I didn't hear it anymore, and I didn't hear it the rest of the day. So, we're hanging out, but eventually we see these police officers start coming out of the building, and people are starting to jump up. Nancy Pelosi's vehicle was over by those main steps over there. The people were getting up on top of her vehicle and stomping on it and jumping up and down, but we could see the police leaving the building and forming up a perimeter. Then I was like, okay, probably time to get off of this balcony and start moving towards home. That's what we were doing. We're going to go home. It's getting cold, getting late.
It's time to hit the old dusty trail.
Yes, yeah, right. Yeah, so we wandered over around this one side of at least outside of the perimeter of the police. We got outside of that, and we brought some baby food because we heard that there was not going to be any restaurants open. So I bought a bunch of those little baby food pouches with the screw off tops, and we just kind of got some nutrition in us, and we're just kind of watching to see what was happening. And it was, people were leaving. So
you do that and you're prepared. I do that and I'm a weirdo. Okay.
Who calls you a weirdo for that?
Just the voices in my head. But,
yeah, okay. So as we're walking around the side of the building, we see all this blood all over the sidewalk. And it was right near this exit door. And I was told that's where they wheeled Ashley Babbitt out.
Yeah,
And
her gurney.
Yeah, her gurney. Yeah. So I took pictures of it and everything, but all that shit's gone. My phone somehow disappeared. I don't know. But those pictures are all gone. But so we took some pictures of that. Then we're walking around the corner, and all of a sudden, I hear a whole bunch of explosions. I see a bunch of tear gas going off, and all of these people start screaming and running in a crowd towards where we were just standing and just got done eating our baby food. And people were lumped up, bloodied, all doused down with tear gas. And I could hear this woman screaming. And it'll get your attention, that scream. I'll tell you that. So me and Eddie went running towards this woman's scream. I couldn't see where she was or anything, but I'm seeing all these people that are lumped up, bloody, running towards us. And I'm like grabbing some people. I'm like, turn around. Don't, come on, let's go. I didn't know where we were going, but I was trying to get them to go. And when I finally got through the crowd and could see what was happening, I see this woman standing there, terrified, hugging her two children, probably maybe one preteen, just preteen, one maybe 13 or 12, and this line of cops and people on their knees that were hit, and then there was some people that held their ground, but I would have never thought it was the police. My mind was not wanting to believe what it was seeing. And I got angry. And, I was there to protect people. And I don't know. I felt that I needed to stand up and speak up. So I approached the police officers, and they all have clear shields. And I could see them through their shields. And I walked up to them, non-confrontational, well, at first. And I put my hand on the top of the shield, like you're talking to somebody through a wire fence,
like you're talking to Tim Allen in Home Improvement over his fence.
Yeah, exactly right. That I was thinking of. I couldn't get it out. Okay, so and I'm yelling at him. I'm just going, why did you do this to all these people? Because I just had been in that area. There was no trouble. Nobody was making any trouble. And one of those cops hit me over the fingers with one of those metal batons when my fingers were on top of the shield.
Yeah. And
it laced my fingers open. I was bleeding like a stuck pig. And, I saw red. I lost it. And that's when they started more flashbangs and more tear gas, and we were just engulfed in it. I had goggles, not thinking I was going to need them for the police protection, but whatever. I had put them on, and I had a helmet. I just came prepared. I had a bulletproof vest on. I was prepared. I'm going to protect people. You got to protect yourself first, right? So, I don't know. It just got to be a bunch of pushing and shoving, really, and a bunch of people getting lumped up. And eventually the police kept pushing us. They would pound their shields on the ground and then step forward like some kind of medieval army, and they kept pushing us back. And little did we know that behind us was a huge set of steps. And we all went tumbling down backwards. All of us, just in a big heaping pile. So I saw on Discovery, I saw that one of the pictures they had of me in Discovery is when I'm falling. They're pushing us down the stairs, and I'm falling backwards, and I'm grabbing on. I'm reaching behind me because I'm falling, but I had my hand on a baton, and they're saying I was trying to wrestle a baton away from a police officer. I don't. That's not what was happening. They like to take that perfect moment in the video to say that was what you were trying to do.
Yeah. Well, they'll take a snapshot of a very long video, not actually give you the video, of course.
That's right. Well, I got the videos. I got them. I'll tell you about that. It's crazy. So yeah, when I was reviewing all the Discovery, after I was arrested, they had a terabyte of information that I had to review. And you might appear in a video that's 2 hours long or an hour and a half long, and they're using it as evidence against you, and you have to review it. And you may only show up in there for 15 seconds, and they don't tell you where. So you got to sit there and watch all of these videos and try to find you to see if you're doing what they're accusing you of doing. They make it very difficult. They just overloaded. It took my attorney 2 weeks to download everything.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And then they put protective orders on things so it can't be released to the public in case everybody else wants to see what it is. So the burden falls entirely on your shoulders.
Yes, exactly. And I had to go to his office in a secured room to view it. Like, can't take any pictures of it. You can't, it was like, I felt I was in his office, more than his secretary was. But, anyway, that took a long time. But, so we got, pushed down the stairs, and that was the end of it. Was really the end of it. My confrontation with the Capitol Police. We went and gave first aid to this one guy. What was he doing? He was on his knees. He was just wanting a photo op, I think, because there was some photographers laying on their stomach taking these pictures. He was on his knees with his hands up in the air. Freedom or something like that. It's like, get off it,
man. There were definitely characters there, and there were definitely a lot of photographers there for the character.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I want to see some of these photos. I saw them being taken, but I've never seen them anywhere. I did see a Shutterstock photo of me. It was right around the time that we were giving first aid to that guy. You could see the blood all over my one hand. But, so, the crowd got really riled after that. Really riled up. And there was a area off to our right where the media started setting up a station where they put all their cameras. So they had all these bicycle racks formed into I don't know, maybe it was a 40-foot by 20-foot wide area that they were setting up their cameras and stuff in. And this real attractive, smartly dressed woman was getting ready to do something, camera check with her cameraman or whatever. And other people are unloading equipment and coming in. And this crowd wasn't having it. Fake news. They were just getting yelled at and screamed at. But all of a sudden, see, this is what I'm saying. I never saw any of those kids. I'm going to call them Antifa. I didn't see any Antifa in groups during the day. But at that point, there's a whole shit ton of them. And they started tipping the barriers over, and they took the one cameraman. He was probably 6'3". He was walking, and this one kid, he was probably 29, and he was probably 280 pounds. He came running like a linebacker and hit that cameraman in the back, and he just slapped his face off the concrete. And then these kids were hopping in there and trying to they were smashing the cameras on the ground and trying to set fire to them, and all the media left. They just left their shit. They left. But these guys were causing a lot of trouble, and I didn't see any patriots in that group.
That's interesting. You say that. I mean, there are a lot of identifiers for Antifa, like certain tactics that are very common, and you can kind of see a lot of it that day, but you can't really be sure. But at the same time, like one thing I noticed that I never really, until you just said that I had always, I'd never really heard anything about was arson, which is not uncommon. And so, like, the fact that you're saying that they were trying to set fire to this stuff?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, you're an idiot. You're trying to set fire to plastic. What? But I don't think they ever accomplished it. That footage was out there on YouTube, and I saw it for a little while after January 6th, and then it's gone. I don't know where it went to.
A lot of it got pulled off the internet. Same with Parlor, all the Parlor videos.
Right, right. So, I mean, not a whole lot happened after that. Everybody's just leaving. Everybody's leaving. And it was cold. It was starting to get dark. It was, it was January, early, gets dark. Yeah. So we went back to our hotel room, and I'm thinking the whole time, I'm thinking, man, that was a little bit of a scuffle, but no, I didn't strike anybody. I really, let's just say this, after watching what happened around our country during the BLM riots and all of that other shit that was going on, I can't even remember everything. It just was like on and on, one thing after another. George Floyd, I didn't think I did anything that I was going to get in big trouble for. After seeing that most of those people got away with it,
right.
Nobody got in trouble. I was like, this is small pittance compared to what I saw on television, right? So we get back to the hotel room and turn the television on, and we're trying to get warm, and I start seeing what they're showing on TV. I hadn't seen that all day long. I never saw that. I never saw the fighting in the tunnels. I never saw the police officers throwing flashbangs like baseball into the crowd, trying to hit people. I never saw any of that stuff. And it was like it was surreal because I was there. I was on the other side of the building and I didn't hear any of that, It's just...
January 6th is, it involved thousands and thousands of people, and everybody's story is a little different. There's a lot that people have in common. Then there's, then everything diverges a little. It's because it's basically like a giant Rorschach test where
right.
Everybody's perspective was different. I was further back in the crowd. I didn't see the people fighting in the front. And so when I got hit with flashbangs or stuff, it pissed me off because I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Is this you attacking me just because I'm a Trump supporter? That's what it felt like at the time, And so the perspective's a huge deal. Let me ask you, you get out of there. For the most part, you just walk around and get your fingers busted up for the most part. That's basically your day in a nutshell. And then you get out of there and you're seeing crazy news coverage, a totally different story than what you had actually experienced.
That's right.
You got permission, you got the okay to be there from some cops. Another indicated that you would be arrested. What was going through your mind at this point? Obviously, there's a huge disparity between what news is reporting and showing you versus what you experienced. But what did you think was going to happen in light of the fact that, like you just said, for years we watched the country get burned to the ground and nothing that egregious actually happened in the hours that you were there at the Capitol. But what did you think would happen to you?
Well, I saw the way they were spinning it, and I was very concerned. I was concerned. I could tell the way that people were talking, even the conservatives, even Trump supporters, they were just all hoodwinked by the media, and they were all just joining in.
It wasn't a mostly peaceful protest, according to them, anymore.
That's right. Yeah. So, I was very concerned that I was going to get in trouble. I never thought I was going to get charged with assaulting a federal officer. Two charges, 2 counts of it. I didn't think what I was involved in went as far as assaulting a federal officer. I was just ready to, I guess after I started seeing people get arrested left and right.
Yeah.
I was resigned to the fact that I was going to probably have to deal with this in one way or another. It wasn't going to go away, you know?
Right.
And we had radios so that we could talk. And, you know, we find out later that the whoever was running jamming signals, and nobody could talk on their radios. So everybody started calling each other on their phones, and that's how they got everybody. Pings. That's it.
Yeah.
You know? So...
You know, actually, let me ask you this too, since you had alluded to, you know, before January 6th, you know, you had sought, I guess maybe the term is camaraderie,
right.
through patriot groups. You have the 3%ers. There's obviously been the huge narrative post J6 about groups, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, but the other one they throw in there is the 3%ers. And so like, I've personally never seen it as this group that was like, even, I'm going to say, like, let me put it like this. I saw people that have 3%er patches or people who like have bumper stickers, but I never saw it as this, this overly present like organization or whatever. But, you know, it is an organization that you are a part of. And so the big narrative about all these things is like, there are these anti-government militias. And obviously, again, you're not anti-government, and you said they're not even a militia. You know, could you give some background as to like what the 3%ers actually are and how it differs from like the atrocity propaganda that they put out after J6?
Right. Yeah, the 3%ers are a group. They do a lot of community service here in South Carolina. When they had floods and stuff, there was a lot of them that went and helped people. They have, most of the guys are former police officers, current police officers, former military, not really current military. Some of them are in the reserves, I guess. So, yeah. But their mission is just preparedness for whatever may come. They're not anti-government. They're not. They vehemently deny that label of a militia. They don't want any part of that. But I mean, they're very. The group I was with, man, they were a great bunch of guys, and we would meet once a month, and they would just go over certain training, different first aid, survival, land navigation. There's all kinds of different stuff that doesn't deal with guns, you know.
Yeah.
And a sense of community, somebody you can rely on. Case in point, you know, they have what they call a quick reaction force. 2, 3, 4 guys, however many they got. But, and if, somebody was holed up downtown during those Black Lives Matter and you made a call, those guys would be there. You know what I mean? And that's what I was kind of looking for. I just some camaraderie, somebody that was like-minded. Yeah, they're a decent group. They're definitely not a militia.
See, like, this is, I think it's really important that, you know, you said the things you said there about that, because one thing I noticed, and this is my personal experience, I know the numbers that get reported differ, but when I was in jail with J6ers, about a third of the guys in there were veterans. And so like that, so when you talked about preparedness, and then even earlier when you talked about, you know, you had a vest on, you had the goggles, a lot, and then you had the first aid that was done to bystander. Right. A lot of the crowd were veterans, or they were former law enforcement themselves, firefighters, or first responders. And so even ignoring what you had discussed about, your past and having PTSD and how, with the flashbangs that day or the excessive force, how that might have triggered a lot of people. And I think it did. Even ignoring that, people like yourself dedicated your lives to public service and jumped into action to help others. And I think that that's a really important thing to hit on. They want to scare people with headlines or basically slander about militias or far right groups or this, that, and the other thing. But what they're really just doing is they're basically making it a thought crime to care about your community or to serve your country or to look after the people that they put their jackboot on. And so I think that that's super important. The fact that you served your country is not insignificant. The fact that you tried to help people that day is not insignificant. And I think it's a microcosm of everything that happened that day. A lot of people had similar experiences, maybe not the exact experience, but people's mindset really matters. We know when people go out and they're rioting today over, in California over the immigration stuff, we know what they're trying to do because they brag about it beforehand, right? But nobody seems to have there's no introspection over why a bunch of veterans, some with PTSD, but those who definitely sacrificed their youth for their country, why they jumped into action to stop people acting under color of law from abusing innocent civilians, kids, women, and I thought that, I think that's super important because, if people like you weren't willing to come out and talk about what you perceived that day and how it made you feel, nobody would care. No one would talk about it. The media
That's
didn't.
right.
The media, the government, the prosecutors, they went out of their way, like with the shield or the baton or the still shots. They went out of their way to make monsters out of us, to build mountains out of molehills, and they never wanted a real conversation about what we experienced. For the mostly peaceful protests that burned the country to the ground for years, they had all the empathy in the world. And, they would dig up Martin Luther King quotes, and, they would talk about how, from the civil rights era and riots are an expression of the unheard and all that stuff. But meanwhile, this event that happens for a couple hours where all the video gets scrubbed from the internet or a large percentage of it, people are hunted down like animals, unprecedented in U.S. history. Nobody wants to hear your story. And that's just wild to me. And I say this like I'm an uninterested observer. I'm not, because I had similar experiences. Obviously, I was caught up in this too. But with that, I want to pick up from where we left off in your story. You're seeing this stuff on TV. It's like the Twilight Zone, totally different perspective than what you experienced.
Yeah. We were going to stay in town for another day and kind of go sightseeing and do some things. And we changed our plan. We were like, we are leaving in the morning, first thing. I just wanted to get away from there. I felt like, how did I feel? I felt like how I envisioned in the 80s, the Soviet Union, like they were going to be crawling and having roadblocks looking for us,
Yeah. Stop you from crossing into West Berlin.
Right, exactly. I don't know. I just knew we needed to get as far away from there as possible. But so rather than mess around at all, the guy that I had picked up, friend of a friend, we're going to call him Agarn. Agarn is his name here, and we had to drop him off in Bristol, Tennessee. So there was a snowstorm up in the mountains, and I got this 2-wheel drive Transit Connect, and oh my God, it was treacherous, but I finally got him home, and then we Eddie and I drove back. My other buddy, he flew out. And then Eddie and I drove back to Charleston. And I was, my wife at the time was just terrified as to what was going to happen, you know, the way the news was spinning it all and everything like that. And there was a whole bunch of my neighbors that knew I went. And some of them didn't have too many kind words for me. Again, I was, you know, South Carolina's a red state, but Charleston is blue. And I was definitely not amongst friends. And shortly thereafter, I had to move. But you know, I guess not a whole lot happened after I got back. My wife and I got separated shortly thereafter. It didn't have anything to do with January 6th. She was always she supported me and was great. So that had nothing to do with it. But we separated in April, and our divorce was final. I think a year and a half later, maybe a little over a year later. But come around June, I just I was starting to feel paranoid, and I had a girlfriend by that time. Somebody had just started dating, and decided to go on one of those glamping trips up in West Virginia, and so we get up close to there, and my little Transit Connect decided to I blew the transmission out of it basically. And I had another buddy of mine from the Marine Corps that lived very close. I was right by the exit of his house, so I was like, I just lucked out, and I nursed it to his house, and we put it in the shop, and I'm up at his house with my girlfriend, and my sister was watching my animals while I was gone, my 2 dogs and my 2 cats. And she calls me and she goes, "The FBI was just at the door." And my heart just sunk. I said, "Well, what did they want?" They were like, "They wanted your wife, you know." I was like, "What?" She goes, I didn't want to answer any questions, so I just said that I was done with him, and she kind of shut the door in his face. So good for her. But so I immediately got an attorney. I started calling around to get an attorney, and I ended up getting an attorney. Her name is Cameron Blazer. She had her own practice at the time, and you know, talked pricing and everything like that. And I had to give her a chunk of money, just to get started. But she called the FBI right away and said, "Hey, you're coming to his door. What's going on?" So the attorney said, Cameron said, you know, "No, it's not his wife that was there. It was him. He's on his wife's phone plan." And they were like, "Oh, okay. Well, we'd like to talk to him." And she said, "Well, you're not going to talk to him without a proffer. You know, he's not under arrest or anything." Right. So, and I don't know. I didn't know what a proffer was, so I'll say this for whoever is listening. A proffer is if you tell them in your interview anything that they did not know prior to the interview, they couldn't use against you. So they refused to talk to me under those conditions. So I was just told to inform them of any travel, even though I hadn't been arrested, I hadn't been charged. I had to inform them of any travel that I was doing, who I was going to see, where I was seeing them, the address, phone number, when I was going, and how long. And
this is without formal charges or even being told that you were being indicted or anything. They just gave you they just gave you the ultimatum that you had to tell them where you're going.
That's right. That's right. So, I was like, all right. So that was in June. So come August of 2021, I moved away from Charleston. I moved out to a town called Cross, South Carolina. It's a little town, and it's the only place you can cross Lake Murray Lake Marion and Lake Moultrie, without going around the two ends. That's why they call it Cross. There's a bridge there, and it's very rural. I'll say that. But that same August, when I moved out to Cross, remember I told you my stepdaughter, she lives up in the Buffalo area, and her husband, he's
not like-minded.
Yes, let's say that. To say the least. Yeah. They watched those. What were those hearings? The January 6th hearings.
The select committee.
Oh, yeah, watched it with their popcorn and with glee. So. But anyways, he travels up to Canada quite a bit for his work. He does some business up there. And there's in the Buffalo area, there's what the Erie County Fair, the largest county fair in the whole country. They draw like well over 1 million people every year. It's ever since I was a kid, it was just great to go to. And so this particular day, he had set it all up so that my daughter could take what we now have 3 grandkids. I got 3 grandkids, and so that she was going to take them to the fair, and then my was going to just do his morning trip up to Canada and come down and meet him. Well, on the way back from Canada, Border Patrol pulled him over and pulled him out of the car, and then started questioning him as to how he knew me, what he was doing with me back in 2009 in Canada, all of this stuff. And they tore his car apart. They took his phone, made a complete copy of it. Now, this isn't helping our relationship at all. That may have been the last straw. I don't know. I went up there a few times after that, but it was not the same. That's for sure. So, that's just like, and they would have never known about him if I hadn't done the who, where, when, how long thing, because I had visited them in between that period of time.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's just that, I'll talk about that in a little bit about how that just destroyed the family, but so I'm living in Cross now, and I'm trying to make some friends. I start talking to this, store owner, and, we're getting along pretty good. I stop in there. I try to give him local business. I try to shop local, even though he's high priced. And so every day I go down there and grab something and just shoot the shit and talk about fishing and camping. And I go, what are you doing working here? Working your ass off, and you should be retired. He goes, I'm doing it for my kids and my grandkids. He goes, soon. I'll give it up when they're ready to take it over. I said, so what are you going to do when you retire? I'm going to travel around the country and go fishing and stuff like that. I said, yeah, that's pretty much what I want to do. I said, I just got to get over this January 6th thing, He goes, what? I go, I got a few charges stemming from January 6th. I would have never known from talking to him. all this time. But he goes, "You were there?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "What are you getting charged with?" I said, "I don't know, but I was involved in some stuff." He goes, "If I was there, I would have shot every one of you motherfuckers.
Jeez.
Do you know that 5 police officers were killed that day?" I was like, "No, there wasn't 5 police officers killed that day." I said, "I was there." And he just went off on me. And I was like in shock. Like, I didn't know what to do. And I felt like, oh man, I can't open up to anybody because I don't know what's going to happen, So there was this little place down the road, a restaurant bar called the Sportsman. And, I would go in there once in a while and grab something to eat and a drink. And I got to know the owners, but I never talked about too much of that stuff, any of it really. So I decided after this experience with that store owner that I was going to go down and talk to Big John and his wife Teresa to see if I was welcome in there. I was just going to lay it out there, This is what happened. And I sat there and I talked with him, and he goes, "Man, you're welcome in here anytime." He goes, I said, "I don't have to look over my shoulder or anything like that." He's like, "Nope, you're good." So I was like, "All right, cool. I got myself a safe place, right?"
Safe space.
Yeah. I felt good about that, but oh man, I was so paranoid. I would hear sirens coming down the street, and I'm like, "Oh, today's the day,"
Mm.
And I kept telling my attorney, they're gonna come to my house and they're gonna arrest me. They're gonna raid my house. And she's like, "I talked to them. I told them you're ready to come in anytime they want to talk to you. You're ready to come in." And I said, they're still gonna raid my house. I don't believe it. I said, and I'm paranoid. I'm like, they're gonna come in. They're gonna shoot my dog, because he's going to come at them, and I'm going to shoot them, and they're going to shoot me. I said, "I'm just willing to come in. Let's not do that." She kept promising me, "They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it." Okay. All right. So, I drilled a hole in my garage door and put a little piece of tape over it so that I could, if I was in there doing any woodworking or anything, I could just peek out. And, I was paranoid, man. It was a crazy time because I'm watching the news and seeing what's going down all around and how we're being labeled and everything, and
well, I like to say it's only paranoia if it's not true.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Right. Yeah. So right after that, my service dog died, and, I just went into this just deep depression. I just withdrew I didn't go anywhere and do anything. And I was in bad shape. But, and then shortly thereafter, I think maybe that was in August, around October of 23, my nephew, moved down here from up in where I grew up in the farm country. He was working on the same farm I was when I was a little kid. That's kind of cool. But he moved down here, and just teaching him some stuff, and we were having a good time. And I finally got a puppy to replace my service dog. In November, I got a puppy, and then December 13th, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning with the FBI. What's the other ones? What's the other officers there?
Oh, let's go through the list. DHS.
Yeah, but they have the jail downtown. The U.S. Marshals, right?
Yeah.
Is it the U.S. Marshals? Is that them?
Marshals, yeah. They're the ones especially that transport people.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
ATF.
I had fenced in my yard so that my dogs couldn't get out, and so that sketchy people couldn't get in. It was real rural. not too many houses around, but I fenced it in and I put a gate on.
I think the feds count as sketchy, so I think you're in the right there.
Yeah, right. So they cut the lock on my gate, and then instead of opening it in, which is the way it opens, they opened it out and just broke it down right at posts. And they had to have driven it over it with their MRAP that they had on my front lawn,
Yeah.
Because that's the only way it could have got broken. But yeah, the FBI guy apologized. He goes, I cut the lock. They're the ones that broke it, the gate. I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't even see that it was broken. Like, I'm at gunpoint.
When it rains, it pours. Jeez.
Yeah, right. So I wake up and I hear this through the bullhorn. Christopher Rockey, come out with your hands up. This is the FBI. Blah. Just keeps repeating himself. And I'm half asleep. 6 a.m., just like everybody else normally, I'm stumbling around. I throw on a pair of jeans. I tell Pat, my nephew, to get in his bedroom and call his mother or my sister, and I went out the door, and I had my dog inside, my remaining. I had my puppy, but I also still had a Staffordshire Terrier named Linus, and he would have torn him up if they come through the door, and they would have shot him, but they didn't do it that way. Thank God. They called me out. I opened the door, and there's barely enough room for me to slide between the door jamb and the battering ram that's attached to the MRAP, on my front lawn, and they had about 24 agents surround my house. They shut my road down. It's a very, very busy road. It's a rural road, but it's busy. And they shut it down like it was a fatal accident. They were turning people around, sending them back all different ways. And, just ridiculous, put me in the waist chains and shackles and,
3-piece suit. Yeah.
Yep. All that. So, they load me in. They load me in their Tahoe or whatever the hell they had, and took me away. They did stop and put the handcuffs from behind me to in front of me down the road a little ways. And then he said, "Here, give me your phone and call your attorney." So I did. I called Cameron, and she said, "I can't believe they did this. I told them that we would come and talk to them." I go, I told you they were going to do this.
Yep.
I didn't have any doubt. So she was just so apologetic. And, she's very liberal as well, very liberal, but she heard my story and she decided that she wanted to represent me.
A lot of the lawyers, even one, regardless of their politics, I found, granted, I think that a lot of lawyers were bullshit artists, but I think there were a lot of people who were dedicated counsel who took their job seriously, who just were blindsided by their own normalcy bias. They just couldn't, it would, for whatever reason, despite how insane the reaction to J6 was, like there's just a part of these people where they thought that the system works because they're a part of it, and it wouldn't turn out the way it did. Even when they really did want to help their clients, they just couldn't see past their own bias. I'm not surprised.
Right. Yeah, and she was telling me, she's like, I never saw this before. She goes, I can't find which office. They can't even find which office is handling your case. For a little, it was in Nebraska. Then it went to South Dakota. Then it went to another state before it went to the DC office. It was like, and I've been told that they were using those numbers to show that there was a rise in domestic terrorism around the country, not just in DC. Because if you took all that and placed it just in DC, it wouldn't have shown a problem. But because they spread it out all over the country, domestic terrorism, that's how they got their numbers up. That's just
That's not surprising. I mean, the whole thing was like this giant web. The more you look at it, you see like how, like even the prosecutors, there were so many cases that they just kind of manufactured that they had to pull prosecutor. A lot of the prosecutors for J6 cases were pulled not from the DC prosecutor's office. They were pulled from federal prosecutors all across the country just to handle J6 cases that would have otherwise been on other stuff. So it's not surprising at all. Even with the FBI, whatever, like I'm sure you've heard, like they stopped looking into like sex crimes so that they could focus on hunting J6ers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So shortly thereafter, I told my nephew that he was going to have to go back home. You know, it wasn't good for him to be here. I mean, he witnessed that. He came here to improve his life and get away from some shit back home. And then, you know, his uncle's getting arrested by the federal government. I just thought it was better for him to probably go back home. And I knew at that point I was probably going to jail. So I sent him his way. But and then, you know, shortly thereafter that, I would say 4 weeks after that, my Staffordshire Terrier Linus killed my puppy, and then I had to put him down. So I lost both dogs in one day, and it was like that on top of the arrest, and just everything going crazy. Another thing that happened that kind of turned my life upside down right at the same time was, you know, my girlfriend was very liberal. Let's just say that. She's very liberal. We got along great, you know, other than politics. But her daughters are very liberal as well. One of them is in her fourth year of college or third, and then the other one was a freshman going into college. And we had told them that story. I told them the story of what it was like that day all along, and they said, "Well, I don't have any problem with that." And we got along great until they started printing headlines about me, saying that I stole a shield from a police officer and smashed him in the face with it. And I punched an officer in the face. All these headlines that were totally not true. I wasn't charged with that kind of stuff. But her daughters saw those headlines, and
this, you know, just in, horrible man does horrible thing.
Right. So now they were saying, "Well, you guys lied to us. You said that he only did this, and now they're saying that he did that." And you know, her one daughter still doesn't talk to her. Just hasn't called her since my arrest. Hasn't called her on the phone. Hasn't sent her a birthday card or a Mother's Day card. Nothing. She lost her daughter. It's unfortunate that they have to print headlines like that. And they don't. I don't know if they realize the ramifications. What that does to families.
They don't care. They don't care about the truth. They definitely don't care about the fallout. And frankly, I think that it gets them off. To be perfectly honest, I think that the journalists I mean, I don't know if you are familiar with a lot of them, but there's like a handful of we'll call them January 6th correspondents that the major outlets, I mean, honestly, like the major outlets would actually get like these people whose their entire job was just to report about January 6th. Every time one of us was arrested or convicted or sentenced, they made a field day out of it. So no, I don't think they give a damn about how families were impacted. In fact, I think they think it's funny because they're horrible people. Yeah. They're the monsters that they wanted to present us as. They don't care.
That's very true. My daughter I haven't spoke to her since shortly after the arrest. Haven't seen my grandkids. Just destroyed the family. It's just sad. But I don't know. Yeah, but shortly after that, I started hearing this echo in my phone. And I did all this research, and it had to be like a phone tap. And I believe they tapped my phone, and they were aware of my association with the 3%ers. And I think that's why I wasn't arrested early on. I just think they were looking for more, and they didn't ever find it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
you think they were looking for more, or they couldn't, they couldn't substantiate any deeper claims or anything like that?
Right, exactly, yeah. But it turns out, after I got arrested, that Cameron Blazer, since I first had contacted her, she was appointed to be the lead attorney for all of the public defenders in Charleston. So now she was in like an elected position, I would say, and she couldn't represent me anymore. She did on the day I was arrested, but she had to step away after that. And so I had to hire a different attorney who was, he's more conservative than she is. And they're real good friends. And she said he would do me right. So I went over to him, and he did a good job. I mean, he wasn't going to change anything. We were sentenced before we were sentenced.
Yeah.
But he wanted a lot more money than she did. But, it was still just constantly coming up with money, more and more money.
A true capitalist.
Yeah, right. So.
Well, so like, what happened? What happened with your arrest? Like, did you get held in a county jail? He said, or
no? They let me go the same day.
Oh,
yeah. The FBI guy came into my cell. They brought me down in there, and they go, and Eddie's in there. Eddie got arrested the same morning, but so he's already in the cell. And they walk me in, and I see him standing there, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me, man. And they like, you all right to be in the cell with him? I said, yeah, I'm fine with that. So they put me in there, and we were in there, I don't know, till about 3 o'clock or so. And then we got released.
Well, that's actually really really good, obviously, for the obvious reasons. But normally, what they do is like they'll put people through the ringer, even if they end up giving, like they'll have to have like a bond hearing. So, did you have to go in front of a magistrate judge at all before that?
Yeah, we did it that day.
Okay.
Yeah. Listen, when I was in the vehicle, and I went off on Cameron for, because I got arrested, and she said I wasn't gonna. When I got off the phone with her, the FBI agent, he goes, you're right. I wouldn't have done it this way. This wasn't our call. This came from way high up. He goes, this wasn't our call, but we're just doing it. And that's why they let me go that day. He was really cool to me. I don't have anything bad to say about him. And they didn't tear my house up. So, that was, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
It could have been way worse.
Do you think you think the raid was really like just for show? Because I mean, obviously they went overboard in a lot of ways with your story. They've gone overboard for a lot of people, but you said they didn't tear your house up. Were they looking for anything at all, or
no? They never went inside.
They didn't even have a search warrant. Okay. Yeah. So
they went to the door, and they I didn't have a shirt on, and it was freezing out. And they asked my nephew to get me a shirt, and he came out with a shirt that was my girlfriend's, and I put it on, And I'm just, this thing is on me like a second skin, but I was so out of it. I didn't realize it. It looked ridiculous on me, and then when I was walking out of the courtroom, the shirt makes you look like you're going to the gym or something, and that's how the reporter wrote the article. The burly 54-year-old, I thought that was quite funny, but
I might have to find that picture, and maybe that'll be the cover for the video instead.
I don't know if that's out there, but I would like to see it for sure. But yeah, I after that I might have created it before that, but I had a Give Send Go account, and I was just trying to ask my people to help me out, and that was very, very encouraging to see how many people that, like I said, my whole life, I helped people. I've helped so many people. And I've never asked for help myself. And it was very disheartening to see how many, or how few, I should say, how few people stepped up to the plate. It really, separated the wheat from the chaff there.
Yeah.
Especially, it's not so much just friends. I think I'm more upset about my Marine brothers. Because, we're a different breed. We really always support each other and are there for each other no matter what. I mean, it's like, what do they say? No man left behind, right?
Yeah.
So that's no man left behind in battle, whether you agree with the war or not, whether you agree with the tactics or not. It's no man left behind. Stick together. And I've lived by that creed since I got out of the Marine Corps. And to see some of my brothers out there that were silent, and some of them, I'm not saying I was begging for a lot of money. I was just wanting a lot of people to give a little money. And some of these guys are extremely wealthy, and I didn't hear a peep out of them. And it's just, it was a lot of money for me, and I'm crippled by it to this day. As to how much I'm just trying to get back. But it took everything I had worked for in my entire life is gone. It's gone. It's just gone. So I'm disappointed that those guys weren't there for me. I hold them to a higher standard, I guess.
Well, so from those who were in the Corps, you said they didn't step up. You had to really roll the dice when it came to any establishment you ventured into, like a diner or a shop or whatever. I mean, what about some of the old, you were in the 3%ers, you left, but did you have any contacts in any Patriot groups or anything like that that showed support?
No. I didn't want to contact anybody that I even thought was my friend in the 3%ers because it might bring attention to them.
Yeah.
I just cut it loose. I never talked to any of them again. I saw this one dude a couple times in town and said hello, but I didn't go to his house. I didn't call him on the phone. I just kind of cut that part out.
Do you think, I get from your perspective, not wanting to, get people jammed up or not want the negative attention, but from their side of it, do you think that they were silently judging you, or do you think that they were cowards maybe, and they didn't want that heat? They didn't want maybe the association because they didn't want to be under a magnifying glass?
Yeah, there's different levels of all of that. There was some people that were screaming at me that they didn't tell me to go. Why should they support me? Blah, blah, blah. There was other people that said, I have a business. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to draw any attention to myself. There's some people that didn't want to, that gave me money,
Anonymously.
But a few people gave me cash because they didn't want to have even their name or account associated with the Give, Send, Go thing.
Yeah.
People were freaked out. They were really freaked out, and rightfully so, I guess. But that's why I don't blame anybody for not wanting to get involved. I guess. I'm upset about it, but I'm not going to end a friendship over it. I'm just going to know who they are. I know who's who now. Yeah.
Well, you can always forgive, but it's hard to really forget because,
That's right.
In the future, and I think this is true for a lot of us. I know this is true for me. But I think it's a general rule. You had said that the wheat was separated from the chaff. I think that's very true. I think a lot of people realized after January 6th, not only who their real friends were, but who they could ever really rely on.
Right.
This isn't everybody's experience. Like when I was in jail, I could rely on like 1.5 people. Even though you were out, there's a common theme I've found with January 6ers, which is not only are they like isolated socially, but there's like a helplessness. You can't do anything. You have, like you want to be able to rely on others. A lot of your story is about brotherhood and camaraderie, and that's just gone. And it's just like social ostracism. It's more than just having a stigma. It's you're basically shut out of society. You're shut out. Right. You can't function the way a person is supposed to function. We're social creatures, and I'm an introvert, but even I having to rely on people who aren't there for you it's by definition, it's an impossibility.
Yes.
It makes life impossible, and that's a torture. That's a hell in itself.
Right.
That's just awful. How else were you impacted going forward? You have this legal case. I know you have to go back and forth to an office to review stuff. I'm sure, in a lot of ways, you're probably stonewalled by the prosecutors. But even outside your legal case, before that's resolved, what else is going on? You're a veteran. Does this impact your veterans' rights at all?
Well, it would have if I did go to prison. I would have lost my VA benefit. I would have got, I guess, 10%, which is nothing. It wouldn't have. I have a few bills that I still have to pay, whether I'm in prison or not. So
yeah.
I had a pension through the operating engineers when I was in construction up in the Buffalo area, and I had to take that. I lost $800 a month for the rest of my life because it was the only way I could get any income for while I was in there.
Yeah.
So that sucks. that does suck. But I got debanked. I banked with this bank for 35 years, and they just sent me a thing one day saying, "We're closing your account in 2 weeks." I'm like, "What?" And you can't talk to anybody. Ridiculous. It was M&T Bank from up in the Buffalo area. They were a real small bank 35 years ago, but now they're huge. I think they have their name on the Baltimore Ravens stadium. Yeah, debanked just out of the blue. I'm like, what did I do? I mean,
Not
crazy.
Not even convicted.
Right.
Did you? So I know, a lot of people got debanked. I and others got our social media nuked.
Yeah.
I know it's just a formality, but did they even bother to give a reason at all?
No. They said, you're our customer and we have a right to terminate your account at any point. No explanation whatsoever.
Lovely.
I mean, it's a minor inconvenience, but it took me 2 days to go on every account that I had. I mean, I pay everything online, or auto pay or whatever. It was ridiculous how difficult that was, but it's a death by 1,000 cuts, man.
Yep.
They just keep coming at you. And then, so now where are we? We're June of 2024. And, I am going to, I have my hearing in DC. So now we got to physically go there. We appeared, via Zoom before that. So now I got to pay hotel rooms for attorney and myself and travel and food and everything. And it is not cheap in DC,
No.
And that's what they do. They make you come to the court for everything after a certain point. And the financial toll is enormous. It can add up in a hurry.
When they send you to the electric chair, you got to pay the electric bill too.
Right. So I had to sell my Ford Transit Connect. I was sad to have to do it, but I had two vehicles. One was the Transit Connect and the other one's a 1999 Jeep that's currently broke down right now. But I had to sell the best vehicle I had, and I put it up on Auto Trader or something. And this guy named Greg, he contacted me, and I had a 3%ers sticker on the back of the vehicle, but I scratched off the numerical 3 on the inside, but still the stars were there, and you could tell it was there. And he bought it just because he saw the sticker. I thought that was pretty cool, Yeah. And then I told him the story. He didn't have any idea, who he was buying it from. So he goes, well, let's just take it for a spin around the block, and I told him why I'm selling it and everything. And he was like, holy shit. He goes, I'm so glad to be buying this. I'm not even going to haggle the price on for you, He was like, hey, do you still have that helmet that you were wearing? Because I showed him some pictures, I was like, yeah, I still got the helmet. He goes, I'll tell you what. I'll take the helmet and we'll start an auction. He goes, I'll start the bidding at $2,000. He goes, I guarantee we'll get up to 4 at least. I was like, man, maybe someday, I don't know. So anyway, he was a cool guy. He actually put me on a kind of like a little group text thing that he has with his buddies, and they're very supportive. Kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So then I got my date to be set for my hearing, the sentencing date in June. They assigned it for November.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's right there at the election, And I was hoping Trump was going to win because he was saying he was going to pardon us. But I had so many things that didn't turn out that I wasn't going to cross my fingers,
Yeah. It's a big what if.
So, yeah, they were going to give me, they wanted, the prosecuting attorney wanted to give me 30 months. And we go to court. Well, he asked me, what do you want to do? Do you want to plead guilty? Because they offered yeah, they offered me the plea of 30 months. And he says, or do you want to fight it? And, seeing what I was seeing of everybody that was going to trial was getting convicted, and they were getting pretty bad sentences. What was it? 97.9% conviction rate in DC for J6ers. And
unanimous.
I think the for all other cases in DC, the conviction rate was like 67%. So that just shows the bias. I didn't have a chance. So I thought, why spend more money on an attorney fighting it? And I'll just take the lesser time, and hopefully the judge would give me a break. I don't know, a miracle. I don't know, but so that didn't happen. We go to court in November, and in between going to court, I'm packing everything up. I put everything in storage that I wanted. That I had room for. Let's say that. Everything else, woodworking equipment, you name it, I got rid of it. I sold everything, and pennies on the dollar. I gave this one auction guy. He was like, "I'll help you out. I'll come and I'll get all your stuff, and I'll sell it for you." I've seen a little bit of money, but like a $250 mower, he sold it for $10, and like it's all my shit's gone. Like it's ridiculous. So everything's packed up, getting ready. I go to court on in November, and my dad and my stepmom went, and my buddy. We were all there, and they were supporting me. But man, they look really bad in there. And he called me a domestic terrorist right in the courtroom. Ridiculous.
Is that on the record?
Yeah. Oh, the stenographer has to have put it down. My buddy even was like, "Holy shit, he called you a domestic terrorist right in the courtroom." Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And my dad is sitting there. He's hard of hearing, and my buddy's sitting next to him. And so the judge, he finds me guilty, and he sentences me not to 30 months. He knocked it down to 18. So that was decent of him. His name was Judge Rudolph Contreras was my judge.
Contreras. Okay.
Yeah. And from what I heard, I did a little bit of research. He seemed like the one of the fairer ones, one of the less severe. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you get sentenced alongside your co-defendant? No. My co-defendant, he had a different attorney, and they wanted to wait to see what was going to happen with me. And they were playing the drag it out game, Yeah.
He wanted to drag it out as long as he could. His date was just his hearing he didn't even get an offer for a plea deal yet. Just that was all the way out into March. His attorney did a good job of dragging that out. But glad
the system works.
Yeah, right. Well, my attorney was like, we had a decision to make. Do we ask for a continuance? Because it's right at the election, or do we go ahead? Because he was like, a lot of these judges are getting pissed off that the defendants are asking for a continuance. They're getting mad, and now they're giving them a worse deal. So he's like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. If we get a pardon, I hadn't even had a date yet when to report, much less get sentenced yet. So I was like, let's just take the plea deal and see what happens, So he gave me the 18 months, and my buddy's sitting next to my dad. Like I said, my dad's hard of hearing, and my dad goes to my buddy says, what did the judge say? And my buddy goes, he's going to jail.
Oh. Jesus.
That's how my buddy is. Very, very direct and to the point. But anyhow, I only had that was just before Christmas, and right around what I think 3 or 4 days before Christmas, I got a call from the prison authority or whatever that is, and they said that I had to report to FCI Coleman on January 23rd. I was like, damn, that's 3 days after he gets sworn in. I said, nothing happens quick. I said, I'm going to end up in there for whether it be whatever it was. I just said so. So I had packed up everything. I had nothing left. It was either sold or in storage. And my girlfriend and I had broken up. So I didn't have a place to live. She agreed to take care of my dog and my cats while I was in prison, which was very nice of her. And I left my buddy's house up in Virginia, and I drove down here to South Carolina because I had moved out. We broke up, and I dropped off my dog to her. And on January 20th, I got here to her. I got to my ex-girlfriend's house. And then they said, we don't know what's going on right now. This is on the 21st. They're like, sit tight. Nobody knows what's going on because nothing like this has ever happened. I wanted to drive down to another buddy of mine from the Marine Corps. He lives about an hour away from FCI Coleman. And I was going to stay the night there, and we were going to go out and party hard. And then before I went in there, the irony of it is he's a retired prison guard. He was going to give me all the scoop, right?
The scuttlebutt, yeah.
So, and then on the 22nd, my parole officer says, I think you should still plan on reporting. We don't want you to not report. And then you got another charge coming at you or something crazy like that, So, I planned on going down, and then, they told me to stop, sit tight again. And then on the 23rd, the day I was supposed to report to prison, they said, okay, your pardon came through officially. I know it was technically on the 20th, but officially, the Bureau of Prisons received it on the 23rd, and I was free.
Yeah.
And my attorney's like, hey, look at that, man. That's awesome. That's great. And I was like, man, I can't thank you enough, but
what now?
He's like, go home, man, enjoy life. I'm like, he goes, enjoy your freedom. I go, what home? What home, Brady? I don't have a home. I don't have half of my shit. Like 3/4 of my shit is gone. Like for pennies on the dollar. Everything I've worked for my entire life is gone. And then they're like, just like, okay, it just all went away. No, it didn't. No, it didn't go away.
No, it did. You just hop your ass into that time machine and,
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that, but it's been a struggle. My buddy up in Virginia where I went back up there and was staying there. He just decided to sell his house just a few weeks ago, and that came as a surprise. So I hadn't even finished unpacking yet, and now I'm packing up again, and I'm on the move, so.
More things change, the more they stay the same.
That's right. That's right.
You're going to be an expert at packing stuff up. So.
Oh yeah. That's for sure.
Well, hell, that's I'm not, after a long list of what could possibly go wrong what else could possibly go wrong? I'm glad that, at least that's one more step back towards a life of normalcy.
I'll tell you, I can do you one better. My couple, while I was up in Virginia, my Jeep, I just put a new motor in it 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And, it's got 27,000 miles on it, and it's making a hell of a racket. So they're taking it apart. Who knows? It's going to cost a couple thousand at least, but, I've been without it for, about a month now, so I have to rent a car whenever I need to go somewhere. It's just it's crazy, but I will survive.
Well, you've definitely shown that you are a survivor. So I mean, that's one thing I got to hand to you is, again, everybody's story is different, and everybody's struggles, they affect them in different ways. But I gotta say, it's very very admirable how much you've been able to just kind of, I'm not gonna say shrug off, because I know this has all impacted you in quite a way, but you've probably been through more in the past 4 years than the average person has struggled through in their entire lives. So that's quite a feat.
I would agree with that. There was some really low points that I didn't really touch on. That when there was a point, right around when my dog killed my puppy and I had to put him down, and I had just been arrested, and my nephew was leaving, and everything was going just crazy. I was borderline suicidal, but I've had so many of my friends commit suicide. My friend's wife, lots of them in the military, most of them from the military, but quite a few of my really, really good friends in real life, they've committed suicide, and I have seen what it does to their families. And I just couldn't do that to my family, as hard as it was,
Yeah.
I would never do that. Oh, it doesn't hurt that, my VA doctor has me highly medicated. That helps.
He's a helpful guy.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, hell, Rocky, there's no, there's no way to sugarcoat it. The stuff you have been through is atrocious. And, again, there's no way to hand wave that and, sprinkle some fairy dust on it and make it seem like it's all perfect and, hunky dory. But I am confident things are going to improve. But more than anything, though, I'm glad that you stuck it out. There's a handful of people who did take their lives after J6. And you're absolutely right that it didn't just affect them. It shook entire families. I know some of them, and, I'm glad that you're a strong man, because you definitely are. And I'm also glad that because you've stayed strong, you were generous enough to tell me your story. And I think that, again, I could never put myself in another man's skin, another man's shoes, another man's predicament, but more stories like yours need to be told. I think it's a crime that they haven't. There's a handful of people who've had their stories told nonstop for 4 years. I'm actually allergic to them because of how much I've been exposed. But your story is special, and it needs to be told. And more stories like yours need to be told. Everybody's story needs to be told.
I think so. We all have a different story. We all have a unique perspective on what we experienced, and everybody experienced something different. Yeah, I find it therapeutic to talk about it. Kind of like that poet therapy that I went through. I've told my story. This is the first time I've ever told my story. I got an opportunity not long ago to go to an event where Tom Caldwell was speaking.
Yeah.
And they gave some of us J6ers well, they gave all of us an opportunity to stand up and speak for 5 to 10 minutes and give a condensed version, you know, and that was really therapeutic. That was the Constitutional Conservatives of South Carolina, great group, and I thought it was great. I felt for the first time when I was talking there and listening to the others, that I was around some people that got me, that understood. They've been through it. Like some of those guys were in prison, and they might have been in there with you. And some of them hadn't been, but were sentenced. They hadn't gone like at me. And I don't know, but they all had a different story, and I felt so much better leaving there. Tom Caldwell and his wife were great. They were great. But I think everybody should tell their story or get it out there, because that's what that's therapy, to get to talk about it.
And it's the truth.
That's right.
And it's something that's been buried for 4 years.
That's right. You could ask me questions about that day, and my answers are going to remain consistent, because it's the truth.
Yeah. And, this is, like, you mentioned the Caldwells. I'm very happy that they, they put us into contact with one another.
Yeah.
They are good people, and, and I'm glad that you were able to do that event. I'm seeing more people do that, but, here's the funny thing is, like, when I got out of prison, I would occasionally go to like little events or gigs or whatever. And I wasn't going there expecting to talk, but I would find myself doing so. And afterward, people would come up to me and they'd be like, I was there too. And they never came for me. And at first I was just like, oh, okay, well, good for you. And then it would just keep happening. It would keep happening. And it was eye-opening just, and I know, like, we were there. There were thousands and thousands of people. They only arrested 1,600 people or so.
I think some people went way overboard and said 1 million, but there was other people that said 50,000. Then there's other people that said 120. I think that 120 is about right.
Yeah, I think it's probably in the six figures. That's fine, but like the sheer magnitude, and they were hunting people who just walked on the grass. So it's like, it's not surprising to me. And you had all these people like you who, even though they didn't get picked up, they were living in fear for years about what might happen to them. And
yeah, I had a couple of people come up to me after that as well, just like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, like we had discussed earlier, like, are these people who cut you off, are they just scared? Are they cowards or whatever? And I don't think all of it's malicious. Some of it, I think, might, reflect poorly on, humanity a little, maybe not. But like, I hope you do more of these events, and I hope J6ers in general are invited to these things, because I think that, you might have had that excuse in the past 4 years that people were just scared. But I think, now there's no excuse. People have been pardoned. There's really no risk, at least now, of the kind of overreach that we saw. So I think it would be more than just a good deed. I think I think that there is a moral obligation of organizations that call themselves patriot groups or what have you, constitutional groups, Republican, conservative, whatever. I hope that you and others get the opportunity now. I hope they extend their hands, and I hope you're invited to tell your story more. I know it's therapeutic. I've felt the same way. One, it's not just paying a debt to the people who've suffered in silence. It's also it's also a way to correct the record and tell the truth, because the truth has been buried for so long. And the people who've been through this nightmare, this terror campaign, they've had to keep their mouths shut because whatever they said could be used against them.
Absolutely. Yes. Right.
I hope you get your say. I hope everybody does. And I hope that I hope the patriots of America, they step up now. And they give you a platform. They give everyone a platform. And that's why I'm grateful that you gave me the chance to put your story out there. And I'm very grateful that you're telling your story. More people need to hear it. And I hope that by you doing this, it encourages others to do so. There are people who've been hungry, and they've been desperate to get their stories out for years, and no one would bother. Now it's a little bit different because it's not politically incorrect to be a J6er, and I think it's more safe to give us a platform. But like I said, there over 1,000, and it's really only a handful have ever done any interviews at all.
Right. I'm with you. Everybody needs to, and I don't know, everybody won't. Some people aren't comfortable talking. They just want to live their life. But I mean, it helps. It helps. Even if they're not going to go, just talk to somebody. Talk to somebody about it.
Yeah. Well, like the media, for me, it's like personal too. As a history nerd, I'm like, I know, you talked about this, like your family was torn apart because of headlines, not because of the truth, but because of what was reported. And it's just like, right. That could always happen again in the future. And the prosecutors have never apologized to me. I'm pretty sure they never apologized to you. The judges never apologized once. And it's just going to keep happening. And so and the media again, the propagandists, the mouthpieces of the FBI and the DOJ, they're never retracting stories, and they're never going to talk about the struggles that you've gone through.
Right.
They don't give a shit. And I think any American worth their weight in dirt, they should care. And so interviews like yours and others, they're going to lay a foundation in the future for correcting the lies and the smears, and for really shining a light on the humanitarian disaster that January 6th became. Because the real atrocity wasn't the few hours at the Capitol. The atrocity was the years that followed, where people's lives were destroyed, including your own. And, I know you're going to be able to pick the pieces up because you're a strong man, but, you magnify that years into the future, the millions that could be affected. I don't want what was done to you or done to me or any of us to be done to anybody else. And you telling your story is part of making sure it doesn't happen again. That's what I think.
Exactly. Something that I left out that I'd like to say, it just jogged my memory when you were talking about the prosecuting attorneys. After my hearing, I hadn't been sentenced yet, but after the hearing, the FBI and the prosecuting attorney took me in a room, and then they wanted to talk to me. And so my attorney was like, "It's all right, everything's over except for the sentencing. Just tell them, just talk to them." And I was like, "Okay." So I told them about the blood that I saw coming out the door where Ashley Babbitt was wheeled on the gurney.
Yeah.
And I said, I heard that when we were on the balcony, I also heard the gunshot. I heard the gunshot, and I said, "Wow, there's a gunshot inside." I said, "That's not good." And shortly thereafter, all the scuttlebutt was, "Yeah, the girl got shot in there, this, and that." So, I took the picture of that blood, and I talked about it in that interview. I said, "Yeah, I saw her blood." And I just said that as a passing comment. And when we went in for sentencing, that prosecuting attorney told the judge that I lied to the FBI because there was no way I was in an area where I could have seen the blood of Ashley Babbitt. So, like, now he's got that in his ear that they're just telling him all of a sudden at the last minute, they're saying, oh yeah, by the way, he lied to the FBI as well. You know, that was bullshit.
What would even be the motive?
I know. It was crazy. I was like, I looked at my attorney and he was just like, what are you going to do? I don't know. They're just so damn corrupt.
That's one way of putting it. The
to put it mildly.
Yeah, it'd be. I don't want to say what I
know. Let's not.
yeah. I disavow. But at the very least, I hope by the end of this administration, I hope every single one of those prosecutors is fired. At the very least.
Yeah. Well,
debanked.
It's time. Yep. Everything. Let it rip.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with January 6th, I guess, but I've for the last 4 years I've had this girlfriend that's extremely liberal, and we found a way to get through a lot of our disagreements. In the end, it didn't. But we're all not that much different. We all care about our country. We're talking about liberals and conservatives, maybe excluding the far left and the far right. I think they're both crazy,
Tribalistic.
Yeah. But I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm none of those things. I don't identify with any of them. And I think a lot of these people out there, like the majority, the major majority of us are in the middle. And we need to stop letting these media outlets and these politicians, divide us. They're lying to us. They're creating chaos. They're breaking up families and putting people in prison. The list goes on and on, and they divide us while they're all laughing and scratching and having their parties and fucking each other and getting filthy rich. You know what I mean? It's a game, and we're not doing so well. We need to start standing up for ourselves and holding people accountable. We're not that different. We're just not that different. I found, we all like different things like racing and football and hockey and music and food and animals, pets, movies. Like, there's so much stuff that we do. We sit shoulder to shoulder in stadiums and root for the same team and all of that stuff. We root for our country, but we got to stop letting people divide us.
Well, I think one of the worst precedents that were set. Well, I think it probably started under COVID, where people were, going on snitch hotlines to report people for, not following the COVID protocols. But like with J6, in my personal story, like my roommate wore a wire to incriminate me for NCIS. People, neighbors, friends, coworkers, family, like people just, it was just normalized to betray your loved ones over politics. And, the prosecution was bad enough as it is. But the persecution was more than prosecution. The process was the punishment. And part of that process included, kind of like how you had said, like having to look over your shoulder all the time, the paranoia or whatever. Like, I don't want to live in a country where my political opponents also are, worried about some inquisition coming to arrest them because they went to a protest 3 years ago.
Exactly. I feel the same way.
It's a horrible precedent. It's not a free country. It's not a free country.
Right.
It's like the Red Terror. It's just like a reign of terror. I'm not like I'm in your camp. I'm an independent who supported President Trump. I don't consider myself a Republican or a Democrat. I think I'm not a radical. I'm not a radical person, despite what they said about me. Like, I don't want the French Revolution, where
right, exactly.
I'm not trying to lop people's heads off because I disagree with them. I want to have a conversation with them. And I think most of us who were there that day are in the same boat. It was probably more conservative Republican or whatever, but at the end of the day, they were just patriots. They were there because they loved their country, and they were repaid. Like that love was repaid by being terrorized and slandered for years. And it's a horrible precedent to set, and people don't see it. They see like, okay, well, yeah, maybe there were some excesses, maybe, whatever, but it's like, I don't think people have long-term, like, they have very bad short-term memory, but I think they also have a poor, like, ability to think long-term. They don't have vision for the future. And so I don't think even on our side, quote unquote, not that we have a side, but I really don't think even the more constitutional types, I'm not sure people realize yet just how bad of a precedent was set and how they might use it again in the future. And that's why, again, it's so important to talk about the excesses now and get it into people's collective psyche so that they recognize the signs in the future, because I don't think America is going to survive another event like this where they set a bunch of unsuspecting people up and start, hunting them down again. Like, I not only do I not want it, I don't think the country will survive it. And you and I both served. We swore an oath to the Constitution, but above all, we swore an oath to our people and our country. And I don't want to lose that. I remember I was in prison, and it's like surreal. I was watching like the news during the Biden administration, and I was watching, they were just like nonchalantly covering the fact that there were like these trains with illegal aliens packed on top of them. And I'm like, I thought I was a history major. I thought I was like watching the fall of Rome with the Goths. I'm like, is this the fucking Twilight Zone? What am I watching? I genuinely was not sure that by the time I got out of prison, I was not sure I was actually going to have a country to go back to. I genuinely was not, like, I didn't know if America would survive.
A lot of people thought the exact same thing. It was just so absurd. It's absurd. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know how any other way to describe it.
No, it was like all morality and comments, like everything was just inverted. And I was just like, it was just like bizarro world. And so, but I mean, that's just me expressing how I felt and how I feel about the political persecution as a whole. It's kind of an irrelevant, tangent about the Obama or the Biden administration, but that's how I perceive all of this J6 stuff too. I don't think that when a republic turns to the kind of tactics the DOJ used the past few years, I don't think that republic is going to be a republic for much longer. So yeah, I don't know. My long-winded way of saying that what happened in the past cannot be allowed to happen again, not just to us, but to anyone, or we're never going to be, we're just, everything we've sworn an oath to is just going to be gone. So
I totally agree with that. I think of the song, We Are Chaos, Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
You ever hear that song?
I'll buy that.
That's what we are right now.
Yeah. Well, I hope that I hope that the wave of chaos we've been drowning in is not the wave of the future. So.
God, I hope not. I mean, I don't know. I don't see how, I don't know what that looks like.
I think I do. It starts with social credit scores.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I don't like that. That's not the way to go. That's not, I mean, well, at least we got 3.5 years. We'll see what happens after this.
Yes, we will. And I don't think anything, I don't think anything worth doing is easy. And, I don't think that you rebuild a civilization, overnight, but I do have hope for the future. Not just with the administration, but again, kind of like with the COVID thing, I think that if Americans are told to prepare for round two, I would like to think that next time they'll put their boots, they'll put their heel down and they'll be like, no, not again. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Boy, I mean, I would like to say, I don't know. We'll see. It's a toss-up. I mean, I don't think the people will go for it, but, I mean, they took some pretty drastic measures.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like fear, fear is a powerful motivator. And so that's why they use it. Right. But I would like to think that people are more good than they are corrupt. I would like to think that. I'm an old fire and brimstone kind of guy.
I agree with that. There's more good people than corrupt. Yeah.
So, who knows? Who knows? It's if you love your country, then on some level you kind of have to bet on the people living in it. So that's the only option I have. So
that's right. We'll come out of it. I think we will. It's not going to be easy. I think they're just entrenched in there. The corruption is so deep, it's going to take more than one administration to fix it. And that's what concerns me, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's always the risk of one step forward, two steps back.
Right. Right.
It seems like in Washington, D.C., that's an obligation. But who knows?
Listen, my one buddy is real good friends ever since high school with a congressman, and one day we were in D.C. about 10 years ago, and he's like, "Hey, come on up. I'll give you a tour of the Capitol building, and we'll have some beers." And he got a whole bunch of beer put in the fridge. We were sitting in John Boehner's office, drinking, and out on the speaker's balcony drinking beer. And he was a Republican, but there was all kinds of guys in there that were his buddies that were Democrats, and they were all they're all good buddies. It's all one big group.
Yeah. So what was it? I think it was George Carlin. He would say, "It's a big club, and you ain't in it."
That's it. That's it.
Was there anything else with your legal case that you wanted to address? Like, I know we referred to your friend, was it Agarn? You said
Agar.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let me talk about that a little bit. So, Agarn was arrested shortly after, I think, he was arrested in December of 2021. And I don't know, he was right with me in that crowd. Like, he was right there with me.
Yeah.
And he got off with nothing. I was always like, why? How did you get off with nothing, man? And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I was like, what? So, because I had seen him prior to me getting arrested, after he got arrested. And he was like, "Hey man, those guys were great. They stopped and bought me cigarettes, and they were giving me everything I wanted." And he goes, "Man, those FBI agents were just really cool guys." I was like, "Really?" It's like, "All right, all right." I didn't know I have anything. Well, that's his experience. So when I get into my attorney's office and I'm going through the discovery, I get to read his interview with the FBI. And it is nothing like he said it was. He told me, yeah, they threw some pictures down on the table and they told me to point to Rocky. And he goes, so I pointed. He goes, "We already know who he is. We just want you to, confirm it, blah, blah, blah." So he pointed to me. And then Eddie, he goes, "I don't know who Eddie is." He goes, "That's Rocky's friend." And I had him in my phone as Patriot Eddie. Okay. And I said to him, "Well, what did you say about me in that interview? Anything? Because I had done my research before I went to DC, and I know that they said you're allowed to have a knife with a blade less than 3 inches. So I had a knife, a push knife. You know what those are?
Yeah, like a push dagger.
Yeah, a push dagger. Yeah, that's what I had on my belt, and I had a little personal protectant bottle of pepper spray. It wasn't, and I never reached or thought about reaching for either of those things when I was in the scuffle with the cops. I had those things for my personal protection and protection of others, and not with the police. So I said, "Did you say anything to them about what I had?" And he goes, "No, man, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything about anything except pointed to those pictures." Well, guess what? When I read through that interview, he gave it all up. He told him I had pepper spray. And that would have screwed me. If I did get interviewed and they had asked me, "Did you have pepper spray?" and I had said no, I would have gotten busted for lying to the FBI because he already told him that I did, but he told me that he didn't tell. He could have really screwed me over, man.
Sang like a canary. It's always an awkward thing to bring up, but snitching is real shit. And I was gonna say, like, because you were in a group of, I think it was four dudes, four. And I'm like, I was gonna ask eventually. I was gonna be like, "Hey, let me just ask. Obviously, did you at any time did you suspect X, Y, and Z?" It is just like it's more. That's right. It's more common than I think J6ers want to admit. I know a lot of people got burned by that. It's not cool. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. I'm glad you said it, not me.
Yeah. Well, it has to be said. And he's out of the group now. That was it, man. He wasn't a Marine. He was a friend of a friend, and and he burned me. So he's no longer welcome in our group.
No, nor should he be. I wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't piss on someone like that if they were on fire. That's not. That's
good. Yeah. Really burns me up.
That could have had serious ramifications for you.
Absolutely. What does that carry? What does that carry? Lying to the FBI. Who knows what it carried?
Yeah, well, and there's a statute of limitations. I think it's like 5 years. So they still could have come after you, even after all this. That could have been a separate charge or something.
Yeah, but they never asked me. And even in the interview, they didn't ask me. So that's good. It didn't come into play, but I couldn't believe it when I read that. I think I read it 3 or 4 times just to make sure.
Well, as soon as you said the cigarette, they gave me some Marlboros and a Handy J in the back. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, he told, sang like a canary. Yeah.
Oh well.
Jesus. All right, so that's good. So I'm glad I remember. I wrote that as soon as I heard Agar, and I wrote that down there. Like,
Yeah. I'm glad you reminded me of that.
it's just like I knew as soon as I heard heard a group of four guys. I'm like, it's hard to keep that many people quiet. It's hard to.
Well, the fourth guy, my buddy from the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
the one that flew in and flew out, he never went in the building, and he never was arrested. He never was charged with anything, but but he gave up his name, and he said he didn't. He said he said he pointed to the pictures of me and Eddie. He said they didn't have any pictures of the other guy, and he didn't say anything. Well, he gave him his name right there. I saw it.
Yeah.
There it is.
Even, I mean, he would have been a rat even if all he did was just point at you. You know, like that. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that. And it's just, it's so like, human nature. Like people will do anything to preserve themselves. There's no honor. No honor.
That's right.
No honor among thieves.
I told, I told Eddie that I was really upset that I got him involved in that, and I asked him to go.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, man, don't worry about it. I you didn't force me to go. I went." So
thinking about it, I
what's
think
that?
I was going to say, thinking about it, the fact that he flipped, that might be the reason they refused to talk to you that might be the reason why they refused to agree to a proffer session for you, because they already had the other guy's cooperation.
Yeah. And he got off on probation. That's all he ever got.
Yep. Yeah. That's
1 year probation. I think that's what he got.
Shocking. So Rocky, at this point, I'm going to open the floor for you to pretty much address anything else that you think maybe we didn't cover, or if there's anything else out that you want to throw out there for those who are listening. You have an amazing story. It's a super important one. You've been through a lot, but if there's anything else that you want Americans listening to know or to hear, or if you want to make your pitch on something, now is your time to do it. The floor is open to you to discuss pretty much anything you want.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to just say that go back to Antifa, even Antifa and
BLM.
Some of those BLM, yeah, some of those people, they're not bad people either. They just are getting caught up in something, and they're misinformed. And I know they say we're misinformed, but I mean, the evidence is coming out right now that they were misinformed, and we all care about this country in the end. I hope most of us. And this division that we have in this country, like you said earlier, is going to destroy us if we don't figure it out. And just remember that we all have families. We're all good people at heart, and just try talking it out. And if you can't agree on politics, just get past it. I mean, just somehow find a way to get past it and enjoy the other things in life that are much more important than politics. These guys are just there. They're there for their own enrichment. They're corrupt. It's all coming out and it's on both sides. And I just want to see it cleaned up so that we get our country back. That's just the most important thing. And all of us J6ers, most of us J6ers, I can't say all, but there's always a few bad eggs in there, but we're all good people. We're there for for the love of our country, and shit happened. But it didn't mean, I have never been in trouble in my entire life. This is the first time I've been charged for anything. And, in the normal world, I'd get probation, first offender, all that. This was just, it's just politics. But, it should never happen again. So many lives were destroyed. Even the police officers that were involved, they were following orders. All of this came from above. We were just the pawns. Police officers were pawns. We were pawns. We need to just take a step back and fix it. And the main thing is that it really is the process is the punishment. You can't imagine what it's like to go up against the federal government, the full weight of the federal government. You can't imagine. It's mind blowing. And we're good people. We didn't deserve to have done to us what was done. And don't let this happen to, like you said, anybody on either side of the aisle again. We should have a right to freedom of speech. And instead of being wrecked emotionally and financially and everything else, and just a shame. But if anybody, it's hard for me to ask. It's hard. I'm not that type of person, but I'm in real trouble financially. So if anybody wants to donate to my Give Send Go account, you look up C as in Chris, last name Rockey, Rockey, J6 legal expenses. That's C Rockey, J6 legal expenses, and I'd appreciate anything that you can contribute. I'm just trying to build my life back and get our country back. So I appreciate you giving me the platform to speak, and I look forward to hearing from other J6ers.
Well, I'm definitely going to say that I know a lot of J6ers will appreciate what you've had to say. I know a lot of them have been in similar situations. They're in a similar boat. Rocky, I'm very grateful to you, not only for the service you've given to your country. I'm grateful for the burdens you have had to bear and the fact that you did. And I'm grateful yet again that you entrusted me with your story and you allowed me to give you this platform. I'm grateful for you for telling your story. I hope more people do, and I hope that they show the kind of courage that you've showed. And I will end with simply this. I know that you're going to make it, and Semper Fi, brother.
Hoorah!
Hoorah!